The Pro Wrestling Push Me poll is a data-based ranking of pro wrestlers by how heavily they were being pushed each month. Not match quality, not retrospective nostalgic name value, but a real-time objective spotlight of who promoters were putting in the biggest spots at that time. Wrestlers earned points for main events, title matches, and big shows, all weighted by crowd size and company exposure. It gives a month-by-month picture of who was actually on top in the industry, globally, in a given month and year. Ultimate Warrior and Sting are numbers 1 and 2 for September 1990, the A-plus players this month, the WWF and NWA World Champions respectively, and although it indicated both companies focusing their product firmly at kids and families during this time, to the annoyance of many longtime adult fans, this was a very cool moment in that Warrior and Sting started their careers together as the Blade Runners tag team, and were now, just 5 years later, both on top of the industry for the respective Big Two American promotions. The Ultimate Warrior at number 1, having decisively beat Ravishing Rick Rude last month at SummerSlam, began the slow build for his next title program on TV against former champion Macho King Randy Savage. Warrior was challenged and slapped on the Brother Love show by Savage's manager Sensational Sherry, with Savage meanwhile claiming he could easily regain the WWF title from Warrior. On the house show circuit, Warrior was teaming with new WWF signings, the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, who returned to the top 10 at number 8 this month, having spent the first half of the year treading water in the NWA, to consistently beat the three-man team of Demolition in six-man tag team match main events. Bubbling under the top 10 for the WWF this month, the Hart Foundation settled in as two-time tag team champions, as did the Texas Tornado as the new Intercontinental Champion. A relatively quiet reset month for the WWF after dominating last month's top 10 with their big SummerSlam card. Sting at number 2, by contrast, was getting a lot of TV time this month, for better or for worse. The NWA World Champion had been being targeted by a mysterious masked man from his past called the Black Scorpion, playing mind games with Sting by keeping his identity concealed. There were some really hokey videos of this, which I'll link to some of in the video description, a backlit hooded figure with distorted Ole Anderson voiceovers. Scorpion had challenged Sting to a match at the Clash of the Champions 12 TV special, and if Sting could beat him, he'd reveal his identity. Scorpion, the masked character, makes number 6 this month due to being heavily featured in that top-line program. To the match itself at Clash 12, and Sting is keen to get at the Scorpion, who seems at first glance to be a fairly generic muscle guy with a basic punch-kick moveset. It was journeyman Al Perez under the mask. That said, he's not bad, and he works Sting over in the ring and around it. Sting keeps trying to go for the Scorpion's mask. Sting eventually focuses, getting a 2 count off a press slam and flying crossbody before winning the match with a Stinger splash. He finally unmasks the Scorpion, who has a red mask on underneath the black mask. Then another Black Scorpion shows up on the ramp and stares Sting down, the implication being the guy in the ring was just a mercenary, and this is the real Black Scorpion. The feud continues. Post-match, Jim Ross interviews Sting and congratulates him on his win, though the crowd aren't happy with the bait and switch. Sid Vicious, the still green muscle of the Four Horsemen, then shows up and says that he wants a title shot. Sting tells Sid he's not saying no, but he needs to focus on working out this Black Scorpion business first. Sid doesn't appreciate the blow-off, so just beats the shit out of Sting to close the show. Look, the Black Scorpion angle gets a lot of mockery because of how it all eventually played out over the next few months. But I will say this, at this early stage, it wasn't actually that bad. It was an interesting angle. Interest had been piqued, and Sting was playing the perplexed but up-for-a-champion role well. Throw in Sid, who makes his top 10 debut at number 7 this month, as an added complication, challenging the Stinger for Halloween Havoc next month, and this was actually a pretty good month in the NWA. Sid Vicious, particularly this early in his career, is such a strange case. At times he could seem like the most intimidating presence the wrestling world had ever seen, with unlimited potential. Other times he can come across like an oversized goof who doesn't really know what he's doing between the ropes. Thankfully, his appearance here at the end of Clash 12 was the former, and Sid looked like a total monster putting the beat down on Sting. Genuinely good stuff from the Atlanta crew this month. Elsewhere at the Clash, U.S. champion Lex Luger faced Ric Flair in a really good match, retaining by DQ after All Japan Triple Crown champion Stan Hansen attacked Lex and wanted a title shot. That takes us neatly across the Pacific and to All Japan itself, and September was a really interesting month for AJPW, where the company held the third of their four big quarterly Budokan Hall shows for 1990. AJPW from this time period is rightly revered for its long-term booking and psychology, and Booker Giant Baba was still pursuing his strategy of having the foreign Gaijins feud over the Triple Crown title, while outside of the title program, the company's veteran ace Jumbo Tsuruta and his stable feuded with rising star Mitsuharu Misawa, the former Tiger Mask, and his stable. Tsuruta, who's ranked a high number 3 this month, had been rocked in an upset loss to Misawa at the last Budokan Hall show in June, and had subsequently solidified his veteran Tsuruta Gun stable to fight Misawa's Super Generation Army faction of young emerging stars. And this month's headline match at the Budokan was the hugely anticipated one-on-one rematch between Jumbo and Misawa to determine the No. 1 contender to Stan Hansen's belts, and it did not disappoint. This rematch is every bit as good as their classic first contest in June, and I'm making it my match of the month for September. Match links as ever will be available in the description, but this time the result goes very differently. It's a very cleverly worked match. They've both learned from June, blocking strikes from the other in the early going. Jumbo takes the early lead, targeting Misawa's midsection to take away his aerial attack, but Misawa rallies and takes Jumbo down. He can out-wrestle the veteran ace on the mat too, and Jumbo looks grudgingly impressed. Misawa then hits elbow strikes, and Tsuruta goes down but shakes it off. The crowd is again solidly pro-Misawa here, and Jumbo looks pretty nonplussed about that. The two trade strikes and go back to the mat, with occasional Jumbo big moves, each of which only elicit 2 counts. After Misawa rolls through and reverses a backdrop driver and hits more elbow strikes, Jumbo's patience wears out and he fires up, peppering his young challenger with rapid open-hand strikes and throwing him to the floor and into the barriers, maybe looking for a count-out win. But Misawa won't stay down and keeps coming back at Tsuruta. Jumbo is holding his head in pain from the elbow strikes, really awesome selling, and the two now up the tempo, hitting each other with everything. Misawa reverses a folding powerbomb for 2, then kicks out of the backdrop driver as Budokan goes bananas, sensing a second win in a real changing of the guard moment. But Jumbo fires back with a lariat and a second backdrop driver, and finally he's done enough to keep Misawa down for a 3 count. This was a war, but Jumbo proved there's still life in the old man and leveled things at 1 win apiece, also re-establishing himself as the No. 1 contender to Hansen's Triple Crown title belts. But Misawa stood toe-to-toe with the ace once again, proving he belongs at this top level. In the semi-main event, champion Stan Hansen, ranked number 4 for September, retained the Triple Crown title over Dr. Death Steve Williams, ranked number 10, in a decent, hard-hitting match. Hansen and Terry Gordy had been battling over the Triple Crown title over the summer until Gordy's overdose and health scare ended that program. So Hansen's primary challenger simply transferred across to Gordy's Miracle Violence Connection tag team partner, Steve Williams. This defense was all about elevating Dr. Death up to main event singles level and having the fans seeing him as belonging in the top tier alongside Hansen, and it did that job perfectly, really taking it to Hansen before Hansen managed to sneak a pin and retain. Next on the long-term AJPW plan, the 2 strands of the company were due to collide once again as we had top foreigner Stan Hansen's next challenger, confirmed as its top native star again, for now, Jumbo Tsuruta. An impending meeting between All Japan's Big 2 beasts, with Steve Williams and Mitsuharu Misawa still sitting just below these two. This was great, nuanced, long-term storytelling from All Japan that all still holds up well today. Next at number 5 for September, we go to Mexico's EMLL and Rayo de Jalisco Jr. After saying a couple of months ago we were unlikely to see luchadores breaking into the monthly top 10s, not only does Rayo de Jalisco Jr. break the top 10 this month, he breaks the top 5 as a result of headlining EMLL's biggest show of the year, their WrestleMania. Equivalent, the 57th anniversary show at the Arena Mexico in a heated mask versus mask match against his former partner and now hated rival Cien Caras. These annual anniversary shows are the equivalent of a heavily promoted EMLL supercard, so double points, and Jalisco had a very strong showing here. That match, which again I'll link to in the description, is well worth watching for a great snapshot of Lucha Libre in 1990. Rayo de Jalisco comes to the ring through the packed crowd with a mariachi band wearing a sombrero, but Cien Caras takes one of the band's guitars and smashes it over the head of Jalisco in a moment that became infamous. Jalisco can barely stand, and the crowd is irate, but Caras puts the boots in and wins the first fall quickly via submission. Jalisco's father, the original Rayo de Jalisco, tries to bring his boy back into it, but Caras maintains the advantage as the crowd pelts the ring with trash. Jalisco eventually shakes off the effects of the guitar shot and rallies to even the score at one fall apiece. Things spill to the floor for the third fall, and Caras goes for submission moves, but Jalisco keeps fighting back, finally nailing Caras with a small package for the third and decisive fall as the more-than-capacity crowd goes bananas and rushes en masse to ringside, actually causing structural damage to the Arena Mexico that would take some time to repair afterwards. There are intense post-match scenes as Caras disputes the decision and tries to keep fighting Jalisco, but the ring swarms with officials, other wrestlers, photographers, and TV cameras. Jalisco celebrates and Cien Caras eventually unmasks. Just crazy scenes and a great contrast to the North American and Japanese pro wrestling product at this time. Interesting undercard match from that show as well, as El Hijo del Santo, Lizmark and Ringo Mendoza beat Pero Aguayo, Fabuloso Blondie, and a very young Conan in one of Conan's first Arena Mexico appearances. And Conan was already clearly pretty special, the focus of the match being the tension between Rudo Aguayo and Technico Conan, in a rivalry that was only just beginning. Rounding out this month's top 10 at number 9 is New Japan's Riki Choshu, who was betting in as the new IWGP champion during the company's Explosion Tour, while Keiji Muto, still one half of the tag team champions alongside Masahiro Chono, debuted his great Muta heel character for the first time in Japan, fighting Hiroshi Hase in a fantastic bloody match on TV. Also bubbling under for New Japan this month, company boss Antonio Inoki returned to the ring for his big 30th anniversary Memorial Festival show, teaming with Tiger Jeet Singh to beat Big Van Vader and Animal Hamaguchi in the tag team main event. Pegasus Kid betted in as the new junior heavyweight champion, while Masa Saito and Kensuke Sasaki were kept strong too. Finally, outside of the top 10 but scoring points in the U.S. territories, the working relationship between the Memphis and Dallas territories finally ended this month, with the USWA reverting back to essentially being just the old Memphis region again. Jerry Lawler versus Eddie Gilbert was the top program in Memphis after Gilbert ran over Lawler in a car in an infamous angle which was famously believed to be real by many people who contacted the police. This story has been told to death, but it's one of my favorite examples of why I love wrestling so much. Gilbert accidentally hit Lawler too hard with the car, and Lawler legit broke his hip on landing. He then had to no-sell a legitimately broken hip and keep working to convince the police that it was all part of the show and that Eddie Gilbert had not in fact tried to legitimately murder him with a car. Link to the video again in the description. Jerry Lawler was a man with many flaws, but my goodness, he gave to his craft. I love wrestling. In Portland, the Grappler continued to reign as Pacific Northwest champion, while the team of Al Madrigal and Ricky Santana were the PNW Tag Team Champions. Okay, that's September 1990. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out all the video links to the matches discussed in the description. Leave any comments below. Are these working, not working? And join me next time for October 1990. Who do you think will rack up the most points for being the most pushed, featured, and spotlighted wrestlers for October 1990? Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.